1.5.1 exercises. This one is all about telling the difference between validity, truth, and soundness. Remember, validity is the structure is such that if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. Truth is whether or not those propositions correspond to reality, whether they reflect accurately reality. And soundness, if your premises are true and your argument is valid, and then you know that the conclusion must be true. For question 1, we're asked, which arguments in 1.4.1 are sound? Remember, number 1 was, all dogs are mammals, all mammals are animals, therefore all dogs are animals. Now, before we start actually doing any heavy work, before we have to actually get into it, let me let you in on a secret. Logicians are lazy people, all right? We like to do as little work as possible. I want to find the easiest way to do these things, and one of the ways to do that is before you actually start working to think about exactly what is being asked. Now, we're being asked for finding sound arguments. And remember what soundness was: valid and true premises. So if my arguments from 1.4.1 were not valid, then I know that they can't be sound either. So I won't even have to check whether the premises are true or not. So that's what we'll be looking for. Let's look for our valid arguments and we'll see, are the premises true? Number 1, we said, was a valid argument, so we will have to check whether these premises are true. All dogs are mammals, all mammals are animals. Yeah, in fact, these are true premises. Argument is valid. That means it's a sound argument. That means I know the conclusion is true. Argument 2, all dogs are mammals, all dogs are animals, therefore all mammals are animals. Now, we said this argument was invalid, so I don't even have to go further and check anything, right? I know this is not a sound argument because it's not a valid argument. Argument 3, all dogs are mammals, no fish are mammals, therefore no fish are dogs. This was a valid argument, so I will have to check out the premises and see if they're true. All dogs are mammals, no fish are mammals. Yeah, those are true premises, valid argument. This is a sound argument. I know that the conclusion must be true. Argument 4, all fish are mammals, all mammals are robots, therefore all fish are robots. Now, we said this one was valid, so we do have to check the premises to see whether or not they're true. And when I check these, I see they're false. Fish are not mammals, mammals are not robots. This is not a sound argument, even though it's valid. Now, I do want to make a point of clarification. I said that both premises are false, and actually the conclusion is false as well. Now, it doesn't have to be the case that all of those things are false in order for the argument not to be sound. The argument can be valid, and so long as one premise is false, then the whole thing is unsound, is not sound. You may wonder, well, can the argument be valid and the premises be true, but the conclusion be false, and that make it not sound? Well, no, and here's why. Remember what valid means. Valid means that if the premises are true, the conclusion must be true. So there's no way for this conclusion not to be true when the premises are true and the argument is valid. However, it is possible to have a valid argument, have one of the premises be false, and have the conclusion be true. That's possible. But the whole idea of soundness is this, that if any premise is false or if the argument is not valid, then it's not a sound argument. Question 2 asks us to look back in 1.4.1 exercises and find an argument that has true premises and a true conclusion, but is not valid and therefore is not sound. Well, remember, we only had one argument that was invalid. So looking at that argument, process of elimination, right? Like it's got to be that one. But looking at that argument, you do have true premises and a true conclusion. All dogs are mammals, all dogs are animals, and it is the case that all mammals are animals. But we said since it's not a valid argument, the conclusion doesn't follow from these premises. Question number 3, however, asks us to look back in the same exercises and find an argument that is valid but has false premises and a false conclusion and is therefore not sound. Looking back, I remember that there are 3 valid arguments, but 2 of them were sound. Those 2 that were sound, remember, the premises must be true in order for those 2 to be sound. So I know that those can't be the case. And remember, if the premises are true and they're valid, then the conclusion necessarily follows. So the premises are all true for those and the conclusion is true. So it must be just that one other one. And that was number 4. All fish are mammals, all mammals are robots, therefore all fish are robots. false premises, false conclusion. It was a valid argument. Remember, it was the same structure as argument number 1, which was also a valid argument, but everything is false, so not sound. Now we have a better understanding of exactly what it is that we're looking for in logic. We're looking for those forms or structures of arguments that guarantee that if the premises are true, then the conclusion must be true. Next, we'll start looking at some of the more basic of those structures. So for next time, please read section 1.6, Connectives.